Hey everybody and welcome. This is Khan speaking. I hope you're all having a great day. I have another new awesome video for you today. Today we are going to be talking about ancient Egyptian life and culture. So let's begin. The ancient Egyptians, many may not have known, are actually the descendants of the Nubian civilization, and who are similarly both descended from a civilization in Puntland, which is in modern day Somalia, which is very interesting. Not many people know about that, and both civilizations had interesting contact with each other, by culture, language, religion. Both were very intertwined, in some sense you could say that, they both needed each other in order to come to life, which is incredible. And also there is the 25th dynasty, or the New Kingdom of Egypt, otherwise known as the Kushite Empire, which was very powerful for its time being, and competed with the ancient superpowers of its time. But moving on from that, we're going to get started with what type of society and culture they had. So the main society and culture that they had was based around the Nile. They were a river valley civilization, which meant that they depended heavily on the Nile for crops, to feed the livestock, to grow crops and food, and they saw the Nile as a great blessing from the deities, and oftentimes they would make practices and religious ceremonies in order to honor the deities, so that the Nile will always be able to grow their crops and to make life easier for them. And many people utilized the livestock to plow and dig soil in order to grow plants and other food products. And the Nile was paramount in order for the land to be fertile and livable on, and so that's why it was revered and looked up to in this really amazing way. Now we're going to talk about the religion. Ancient Egyptian religion, as we well know, is a polytheistic theology which relies on the honouring and the worship of many different deities. And you'd have a deity like Sobek, who would be responsible for the Nile. You'd have Ra, who would be considered as this patriarchal father type deity, who's seen as this benevolent figure who looks down on everyone and protects everyone. And then we'd have Horus as well, who's kind of seen as this kingly figure, and who's also another paternalistic figure in some sense as well. He's meant to be as a protector and as a guiding figure for the people, and the emperor is often considered his reincarnation. But there's also a lot of talk about the female deities, such as Hathor, who's seen as a maternalistic figure, known for fertility and for love and for keeping law and order in society, and same with Bastet as well. She's often associated with magic as well, which is very interesting. Ancient Egyptians were very superstitious people who believed in magic, and magic having an important place in their life. We can also confirm this as they had many other deities like Thoth, who was considered a deity which was very well versed in magic, and the idea that priests were able to use incantation and magic spells in order to grant people luck or to heal them of any ailments, which is quite interesting. And now let's talk about the writing and the education. Being a scribe was considered a very honorable profession in ancient Egypt. There were many scribes who recorded important information such as battles, victories, laws, religious stories and religious texts. Example of that can be the Book of the Dead, which was written by many scribes, and in that book there was certain hymns and prayers and spells and incantations which they would chant in order to appease the deities and to win them over and to win their favour. And also there was a lot of syncretism with the ancient Greeks as well, because although many empires did conquer Egypt, I'd say the ones that had the most amount of impact were the Greeks by far. This is because they had it synchronized both of their cultures together. This is made evident in the Ptolemaic era, which was established by one of Alexander the Great's generals, Ptolemaeus. And Ptolemaeus was even said to marry his own sister, which was considered a tradition practiced by the ancient Egyptian aristocracy. It was considered a very noble tradition. and that was still practiced. And also another interesting fact is they made beautiful works of architectural marvels, such as the Lighthouse of Alexandria and even the Library of Alexandria, which were two amazing and wonderful marvels of architecture. But unfortunately, the Library of Alexandria is no more, as some speculate that it was burned down by Julius Caesar, some speculate that it was destroyed earlier or just fell out of use. But it was probably one of the biggest tragedies in history. But moving on from that, another interesting fact about ancient Egyptian societies, they were quite egalitarian and equal for their time, as women had a lot of power. There were many female pharaohs and they were very revered and looked up to. An example of that could be Queen Hatshepsut, in the more earlier period of ancient Egyptian history. And then we have Queen Cleopatra, who's a figure in later Egyptian history, and she was a very influential woman, probably one of the last true pharaohs of Egypt. And so, women had a lot of power back then, and back then women had complete control of the home and the household. So whatever the woman wanted in the household, usually the men would have to abide, and the children as well. She was kind of considered as the matriarch, and most people would have to follow her, as well as the fact that many women became scribes and priests and doctors, which was considered very big and honorable traditions in the ancient Egyptian society.